What happens when the wrong person becomes the target of a dangerous gang? In the peaceful town of Eagles Point Harbor, where the morning mist still clings to the water's surface and the air smells of salt and fresh fish, Hannah Collins is about to find out. She stands at the edge of her father's weathered dock, unaware that her tranquil morning is about to be shattered by the roar of motorcycle engines. The sound grows louder and more menacing with each passing second, and soon, the Steel Vipers, one of the most feared gangs across 3 states, pull into the marina. Hannah tries to remain calm, focusing on her task of preparing for the day's charters. But the bikers have something else in mind. They don't care about business or respect. They see opportunity, and they're ready to take whatever they want. But there's one thing they don't know. They've picked the wrong target. The daughter of a small-town fisherman isn't as helpless as she seems. In fact, her father, Daniel Collins, may look like a simple fisherman, but he's a former Navy SEAL with a past that's about to make the bikers wish they'd never crossed the line. As the bikers surround Hannah, testing her limits and making their threats, Daniel is miles out on the water, teaching a family the art of fishing. But one phone call is all it takes to pull him back to the docks. And the bikers don't realize that the Real storm hasn't even arrived yet. Hannah faces them with calm defiance, her father's training in the back of her mind. She knows this isn't just about protecting herself. It's about keeping her family safe. The bikers laugh and mock her. But as they get closer, they have no idea that they're standing on the edge of a decision that will lead them straight into a confrontation with a man who has faced much worse than them. Daniel's boat engines hum on the horizon, and as he returns, the bikers begin to understand that the quiet fisherman they've underestimated is about to show them exactly what happens when you threaten the wrong person. The bikers may have thought they were invincible, but they haven't even begun to realize how much trouble they're really in. The story of Hannah and her father is about to take a turn, and the bikers are about to get a brutal lesson in underestimating the wrong person. Will the quiet fisherman's past be enough to stop them? Or will the bikers push him too far? One thing's for certain. They're about to learn what real strength looks like. Drake, the leader of the Steel Vipers, steps forward with a smirk, sizing up Hannah as if she's prey. His motorcycle roars in the background, and with every slow step he takes towards her, the tension grows. Well, what do we have here? He sneers, his voice dripping with mock curiosity. His gang flanks him, closing in from all sides. Hannah feels the weight of their gaze, the cold, calculated stares that hold nothing but malice. She knows this isn't just a conversation. This is a test. And they want to see how far they can push her, despite the fear clawing at her chest. Hannah stands tall, her fists clenching around the rope she was coiling earlier. She forces herself to breathe steadily, trying to keep her voice even. This is private property, she says, her words steady but her heart racing. Unless you have a booking, I need you to leave. The bikers laugh, the sound grating on her nerves. As Drake takes another step forward, he leans in close, invading her space, trying to break her resolve. The Steel Vipers don't need bookings. Sweetheart, we go where we want, when we want. As the bikers close in, a cold sweat forms on Hannah's brow, but she doesn't back down. She holds her ground, the training her father gave her whispering in her ear, just as the gang leader inches closer. Hannah's eyes flicker to the marina office, where Mike Henderson, the manager, watches with growing concern. The moment Mike picks up the phone, everything changes. He knows who to call. He knows exactly what's at stake. His hand trembles as he dials the number he's called countless times before, the number of a man who won't back down. Meanwhile, out on the lake, Daniel is leading a family on a fishing tour. completely unaware of the danger brewing back at the docks. But Mike's voice on the other end of the line jolts him back to reality. Dan, you need to get back here. The steel vipers are at the marina, and they're circling Hannah like sharks. Daniel's jaw tightens. I'll be right there, he says, his voice calm. But a storm is already beginning to brew in his mind. Time is running out. Will he make it back in time to stop them from escalating the situation? Or will the bikers push too far, making a fatal mistake in the process? The clock is ticking, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Daniel's grip on the fishing rod tightens as Mike's voice crackles through the phone, each word laced with urgency. Dan, it's bad. The steel vipers are here, and they've got Hannah cornered. You need to get back now. His mind sharpens immediately, every inch of his military training kicking in. The water beneath him, once calm, suddenly feels heavier. He's been in tight spots before, but this is different. This is his daughter, his family, with a calmness that only years of training can bring. Daniel reels in the line, cutting the trip short without hesitation. His eyes scan the lake for any signs of danger, but he knows better than to rely solely on what's visible. His thoughts race, calculating the situation in the time it takes to guide the boat back to shore. The bikers are unpredictable, and he has no idea where they position themselves. But he knows one thing for sure. They've made a mistake if they think they can intimidate the wrong person. The boat glides through the water with precision, Daniel's hands steady on the wheel. His heart, however, beats like a drum. He focuses on his breathing, feeling the weight of the responsibility pushing him forward. The marina is coming into view, and the tension in the air grows thicker with every passing second. He can't see the bikers yet, but he knows they're there, waiting. The calm before the storm feels suffocating as the boat nears the docks. Daniel's mind is already working through his options, positioning his next moves before he even steps foot on the dock. But as his boat pulls closer, he wonders, will his presence be enough to turn the tide? Or have the bikers already pushed too far? There's only one way to find out. The moment he steps off that boat, things will change. The clock is ticking, and every second counts. The moment Daniel steps off the boat, the bikers turn their attention to him. Drake, still full of bravado, laughs loudly, clearly underestimating the man approaching them. Well, looks like Daddy's come to the rescue. He sneers, sizing Daniel up. The gang, cocky and sure of themselves, spreads out to make their move, expecting him to be nothing more than a humble fisherman. But Daniel doesn't flinch. His eyes scan the group, taking in every detail, every subtle movement of the bikers. There's no panic in his posture, no rush to act, only the quiet assurance of someone who's faced real danger before. He stands tall, his presence alone starting to shift the balance. His hands remain loose at his sides, every step measured, deliberate. The calm in his eyes tells a different story than the one Drake is expecting. Drake's smile falters as Daniel steps forward, undeterred by the gang's aggressive posturing. I don't know who you think you are. Daniel's voice is steady, the words carrying a weight that wasn't there before. But threatening my daughter? That's where you cross the line. The bikers laugh, their confidence unshaken. But Daniel's eyes never leave Drake's. He's already assessing the situation, figuring out the angles, the threats, and how best to de-escalate before anything turns violent. But the bikers don't know that about him. They don't know what he's capable of. And they don't realize that the man standing before them has seen far more dangerous situations than this. With every word Daniel speaks, the bikers begin to sense something isn't right. The smirks start to fade, replaced by a flicker of doubt. They underestimated him, this quiet fisherman, with his slow movements and calm words. They thought they could intimidate him, but now they're starting to wonder, is this man someone they want to challenge? Daniel's body is relaxed, almost passive, yet his presence is commanding. The tension in the air thickens, and his quiet confidence grows louder than any motorcycle rev. The gang shifts uneasily, unsure of how to proceed. The more Daniel stays calm, the more their bravado crumbles. "Listen," Daniel says, his voice unwavering. "You have one choice here. You leave. And this whole thing ends without a scratch. Or you stay." And we find out what happens when you push the wrong person too far. The power in his words isn't in the threat. It's in the unwavering certainty that he won't back down. The bikers look at each other, unsure. For the first time, they realize they've pushed someone too far. They've crossed paths with a man who knows how to handle pressure, and they've underestimated the quiet strength that comes from calmness under fire. Drake steps forward, trying to mask the fear creeping up on him with a weak smile. "You really think you can stand up to all of us?" "Old man," his voice shakes slightly, revealing cracks in the tough guy facade. But Daniel doesn't blink. "I'm not standing up to you," he says. "I'm standing up for my family, and that makes all the difference." The gang's hesitation lingers in the air, and in that moment, Daniel's quiet confidence does more damage than any threat ever could. They realize they picked the wrong fight. But will they walk away? Or will they push their luck one step too far? The bikers, sensing the shift in power, grow more aggressive, determined to prove they won't back down. Drake's confidence has now faltered, but his pride pushes him to continue the confrontation. He motions for his men to step forward, and they lunge at Daniel, believing that sheer force will win them the upper hand. But what they don't know is that Daniel is far from the easy target they think he is. As the first biker lunges toward him, Daniel remains calm, his eyes calculating. With a subtle sidestep, Daniel lets the biker's momentum carry him forward, sending him stumbling into one of the nearby dock posts. The biker crashes into the wood with a grunt, completely off balance and clearly dazed. His comrade, seeing the failed attack, charges next. But Daniel's movements are so fluid and quick that it's like he's barely there. In one smooth motion, Daniel deflects the incoming punch, twists the biker's arm, and with one swift movement, sends him tumbling to the ground, his face slamming against the wet dock. The remaining bikers hesitate for a split second, but their bravado pushes them onward. Marcus, the gang's enforcer, pulls a knife, its blade catching the sunlight as he makes his move. But Daniel doesn't flinch. He steps forward with the same deliberate calm, using Marcus's own momentum against him. In an instant, Daniel twists the arm holding the knife, forcing Marcus to drop it. The knife clatters to the ground as Marcus stumbles back, clutching his wrist. The power in Daniel's movement isn't in brute strength. It's in his precision, his ability to control the fight and turn every attack into an opportunity. Drake's smile has faded completely now, his arrogance slipping into uncertainty. One of the bikers, a hulking man named Tank, decides to try his luck, charging at Daniel with brute force. But before Tank even gets within arm's reach, Daniel sidesteps again, letting Tank's momentum propel him into the water below. The splash echoes across the marina, and Tank surfaces, sputtering and cursing. The bikers are slowly starting to realize what's happening, but their pride and their arrogance won't let them back down. They've underestimated Daniel, seriously misjudged the quiet fisherman they thought they could intimidate, and now, one by one, they're being taken down with minimal effort. Their attacks are sloppy, fueled by rage and embarrassment. But Daniel's movements are surgical. Every strike they throw at him is countered with ease. They're not fighting a fisherman. They're fighting a man who has honed his skills in life or death situations. A man who spent years facing down true danger. The gang's bravado is rapidly crumbling. Their attacks growing more desperate with each failed attempt. Daniel remains in control. His calm demeanor completely shattering the biker's sense of superiority. As the last of the bikers stumbles back, nursing a bruised ego and broken pride, Daniel stands in the center of the dock. Unscathed, his calm, confident gaze sweeps over the remaining bikers, who are now unsure of how to proceed. Drake, still on his feet but clearly shaken, glares at Daniel, but there's a flicker of doubt in his eyes. "You're lucky," he spits out. "We're not done yet." But Daniel doesn't take the bait. His voice is steady, unbothered. "No, Drake, you're the one who's lucky. You picked the wrong fight." The bikers stand frozen, their pride and bravado long gone. The realization sets in slowly. This isn't just some old fisherman they've been messing with. This is a man who's fought battles that none of them could even comprehend. And now, they've made the mistake of underestimating him. The question now isn't whether they'll continue to fight. It's whether they'll recognize the cost of their mistake before it's too late. As the bikers regroup, nursing their bruises and glaring at Daniel, a shift begins to take place in the air. The tension is thick. But instead of continuing the violence, Daniel stands tall, his gaze steady and unwavering. He's not looking at them like they're enemies anymore. He's looking at them like they're men who've lost their way, and he's about to show them the path back. "Look at yourselves," Daniel says, his voice calm, yet laced with authority. "You came here looking for a fight. You thought you could take whatever you wanted, and you thought you could intimidate everyone around you. But you're wrong. Real strength isn't about making people fear you. It's about making people respect you. And if you don't respect yourselves, you're just bullies hiding behind leather cuts and loud engines." The bikers are silent, unsure of how to respond. Drake stands there, seething, his pride wounded. But even he can feel the truth in Daniel's words. Piercing through the rage, the other bikers exchange glances, their defiance faltering, just slightly. They've never heard anything like this before. They've never had anyone stand before them and speak with such quiet, unwavering confidence, offering not just a lesson, but a way out. Daniel's eyes shift from one biker to the next, as if he's seeing through them, seeing the men they used to be, the soldiers, the brothers, the warriors who fought for something greater than themselves. "I know what you're searching for," Daniel continues, his voice softer now. "You're looking for purpose, for meaning, but you're chasing the wrong thing. Power, fear, intimidation, they're all illusions. They'll leave you hollow. The real strength is knowing when not to fight. The real strength is in choosing a better path. Not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to admit when you've been wrong." One of the bikers, Tank, shifts uncomfortably. He's been quiet, his eyes searching the ground. He's heard this kind of talk before, in the military, from his own mentors, from men who taught him the real value of strength. But somewhere along the way, he lost his way, and now he's starting to see how much he's forgotten. I don't know if I can do this," Tank mutters, his voice low, filled with doubt. "Everything I've known all this, it's hard to just let go." Daniel steps forward, his voice steady and reassuring. "You don't have to let it all go at once, Tank, but you have to start somewhere. No one is asking you to be perfect. Just be better. Start by remembering who you really are." There's a long pause as the bikers stand there, wrestling with their pride, with the life they've chosen. Some of them are looking at Daniel like they've just seen the possibility of a future they thought was impossible. Others, like Drake, are still clinging to their bravado, their fear masking the uncertainty beneath. Marcus, one of Drake's right-hand men, takes a hesitant step forward. "You really think we can change?" His voice is rough. "Unsure. I mean, all of this, everything we've done." Daniel meets his gaze, his eyes full of understanding. "I know you can, but it's not about what you've done. It's about what you choose to do now. You have a chance to start over, to make something real. The only question is whether you're brave enough to take it." The words hang in the air, charged with possibility. For the first time, the bikers look less like a gang and more like a group of men, uncertain about their future, but starting to see that maybe, just maybe, there's a better way. The transformation isn't going to happen overnight. It's a choice that needs to be made every single day. But it's a choice that's in their hands now. And they're beginning to realize that they have the power to choose something different. Drake, still on the edge, looks around at his gang. His pride is still there, but it's starting to crack. He doesn't know what's scarier, accepting Daniel's offer and changing, or trying to continue down the path he's on and losing everything. His hand hovers near his waistband, where the gun that once represented his power now feels like an anchor weighing him down. Daniel notices the movement, but doesn't react. Instead, he offers a final piece of advice. Real strength comes from helping others, not tearing them down. There's a better way to live, a way where you don't have to fight for respect. You earn it. The silence that follows is heavy, but it's a silence filled with the weight of a decision. The bikers, now standing on the edge of their own redemption, begin to realize that the life they've been leading doesn't have to be their destiny. The question is no longer whether they'll fight, but whether they'll fight for the man they were meant to be, or for the man they've let themselves become. Daniel's quiet strength is a challenge they've never faced before, and for the first time, they're starting to see that maybe, just maybe, this quiet fisherman has been right all along. The sound of sirens cuts through the heavy silence as Sheriff Wilson's car pulls into the marina parking lot. The tension is still palpable. But now, it's different. The bikers, once filled with bravado and ready to unleash chaos, are now hesitating, shifting uneasily as they look at Daniel, then at each other. The calm authority that Daniel has shown has broken their confidence, replacing it with uncertainty and doubt. Sheriff Wilson steps out of his vehicle, his boots hitting the gravel with purpose. He's seen his fair share of trouble, but even he can sense the shift in the air. The Steel Vipers aren't the gang they once were, not after the lesson they've just learned. As he surveys the scene, Daniel stands quietly beside him, arms crossed, watching the bikers. "Looks like we're done here," Sheriff Wilson says, his eyes scanning the group. He doesn't need to ask what happened. He can see it in the way the bikers stand, how their leather cuts hang loosely now, stripped of their previous menace. One by one, the bikers begin to surrender, their hands raised, the tension in their faces replaced with reluctant acceptance. Daniel doesn't have to say a word. His influence has already worked its magic. The bikers are no longer looking for a fight. They're looking for a way out. The surrender is quiet, almost reverent, as if they understand that this is a turning point, the moment they choose a new path. "You're not the men you once were," Daniel says softly, his voice carrying across the still air. "But that doesn't mean you can't be something better." The sheriff nods, signaling to his deputies to take control of the situation. The cuffs click shut, and the bikers are escorted to the waiting patrol cars. Their faces a mix of resignation and hope, unsure of what comes next, but aware that it's a chance they didn't have before. As the last of the bikers are led away, Daniel watches them closely, his eyes sharp. This isn't over, he mutters under his breath. But his words are more hopeful than ominous. It's just the beginning, as the marina begins to settle. Daniel turns to Sheriff Wilson. They'll need guidance. They've been shown a better way. But they'll have to work for it. Redemption isn't easy, but it's worth it. The sheriff glances at the departing bikers, a thoughtful look on his face. You did more than just stop a gang today. You gave them a chance to change. Daniel nods, watching the last of the bikers disappear into the cars. Yeah, and now it's up to them to take it. Months have passed since the confrontation at the marina, and the transformation is undeniable. The Steel Vipers, once the scourge of Eagles Point Harbor, have been replaced by a group of men working to find their place in a world that no longer requires violence to feel powerful. Tank and Marcus, who were once enforcers in the gang, now stand side by side with veterans, helping run a program dedicated to reintegrating former soldiers into civilian life. They teach skills, mentor newcomers, and slowly, quietly, change the narrative of their own lives. Razor, the former gang leader who once thought power came from fear, has completely turned his life around. He's taken on the role of vocational training, working with young veterans to teach them trades and help them find their footing in the civilian world. His tough exterior has softened, and in its place, a genuine desire to help others has emerged. The man who once wielded power through intimidation now holds authority through respect earned, not taken. Daniel watches all of this unfold from the docks. The same docks where the bikers once threatened his daughter. The marina, once a symbol of fear and intimidation, has become a symbol of hope and rebirth. The transformation of the bikers and the community is evident in every corner of the harbor, and the sense of unity in the air is palpable. The noise of motorcycles still echoes across the marina, but now it's a reminder of how far things have come, of the men who once lived by intimidation now finding peace and purpose in each other's company. As Daniel stands there, watching the boats come and go, his thoughts turn inward. The victory was never about defeating the bikers, never about showing them who was stronger. The real victory was in showing them the way to something better, a life of service, respect, and brotherhood. In the end, it wasn't the power of force that mattered, but the power of change. He glances over at his daughter, Hannah, standing beside him. She, too, has seen the change, but it's in her eyes that Daniel sees the real triumph. She no longer looks at the bikers as the threat they once were. She sees them as people who have a chance to start over, just as the entire town has a chance to begin again. True strength. Daniel muses aloud, isn't in how much you can take from the world, but in how much you can give back. Hannah looks up at him, a smile tugging at the corner of her lips. You always said strength isn't what you build, not what you destroy. Daniel nods, his eyes scanning the horizon. And what we build here is bigger than any gang or any intimidation. It's a community. It's a family. It's redemption. In the distance, Tank and Marcus walk down the dock, their laughter carrying on the cool breeze. Razor, standing beside them, is teaching a young man how to tie a boat knot, his patience clear as day. The sounds of their conversation, mixed with the steady rhythm of the harbor, make Daniel feel a deep sense of pride. The Steel Vipers, once an unstoppable force of fear, have become men who serve others, men who are finding their way back to what truly matters. And as Daniel watches them, he realizes that the legacy they're building is one of healing, one of redemption. Sometimes the best victories aren't the ones where you fight the hardest. Daniel says, his voice steady, it's the ones where you show people they can be better than they ever thought they could be. As the sun sets over the marina, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Daniel knows that the legacy of the Steel Vipers, now a symbol of redemption, will outlast any gang, any threat, any fear. It's the legacy of men who chose to change in a community that chose to stand together. And for Daniel, that's a victory worth holding on to. This was more than just a victory. It was the beginning of something much bigger. It was the beginning of a new way of life, where real strength is measured not by the scars you've collected or the battles you've won, but by the lives you've changed and the people you've helped find their way home. As the final scene unfolds, Daniel and Hannah stand side by side at the end of the dock, gazing out over the calm, sparkling waters of Eagles Point Harbor. The early evening sky bathes the marina in a soft, golden light, and the peaceful rhythm of the boats gently rocking in the water serves as a quiet testament to the transformation that has taken place. The bikers, once feared outcasts who roamed the streets with an air of menace, are now integral parts of the community. They work alongside local fishermen, teaching younger veterans, and helping to rebuild the very place they once sought to dominate. The once menacing Steel Vipers have become symbols of change, proof that redemption is possible, no matter the past. Daniel, ever the stoic observer, watches the new life taking root around him. He reflects on the quiet, unassuming power of one simple act of courage, how his decision to stand firm in the face of danger rippled out, sparking a change that no one could have predicted. He turns to Hannah, his daughter, who stands beside him with a look of contentment in her eyes. "You know," Daniel says softly, his voice carrying the weight of years of experience, "sometimes it takes one person, one act, to remind everyone of what they're truly capable of." Hannah nods, the quiet pride in her gaze matching his. It's like they finally realize that true strength isn't in what you take from others, but in what you give. As the last rays of sunlight reflect off the water, casting long shadows over the marina, Daniel's thoughts turn to the future. The once divided community now stands united, stronger because of the choices they've made, the battles they've fought together. What happens when people finally realize their true strength? It's simple, everything changes. A community once built on fear and division has been transformed into one of hope, solidarity, and a shared purpose. The legacy of the bikers, the veterans, and the townspeople is now rooted in this new foundation of respect, service, and brotherhood. Can one act of courage really change everything? Daniel wonders aloud. His answer comes in the form of the peaceful scene before him, the marina, the community, and the lives that have been rebuilt. In that moment, it's clear that one act, one decision, has indeed changed everything. With that thought, Daniel and Hannah stand together, watching the boats leave the dock and the sun dip below the horizon. They know that the journey has only just begun, both for the community and for the men who once lived in the shadows, now finding their way back to the light. And in that quiet, peaceful moment, they realize that true strength lies not in the power to destroy, but in the courage to rebuild. If you enjoyed this heartfelt story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more amazing tales. Your support keeps us going.